webinar. Today we have Alexandra Mozina, who is the technical marketing with Active Concepts and Active Microtechnologies, and she'll explain all those relationships. And she's the liaison between the cosmetic research development and the sales company. She's been involved for about 5 years in research experience, and you did oh wow, that you are good. You have a B of A, a B of Bachelor's of Science, I can't even talk, in molecular biology with a minor in chemistry, and did a lot of research, and then worked with infectious organisms. So we may have some completely different questions for you on that. Alexandra transitioned into cosmetics in 2019, and she's now focusing on articulating research studies into marketing material, one of my favorite things, to further the product and brand development in the cosmetic industry. So again, our goal here at NOHBA is to provide further resources for all of you in the indie world. So with that, Alexandra, take it away. If you have questions, you can type them into the chat bar, and we will also reserve some time for questions at the end.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen if that's all right. Can everybody see this okay? Okay, so I am going to be doing a presentation on alternative preservation. Again, my name is Alexandra Mozina. I'm with Active Microtechnologies, and I'll talk a little bit more about our company later on in the presentation. So really want to start off by talking about the demand for natural and organic sustainable type products in the industry. So we, we see a lot with Generation Z and the millennial generation, how they're sort of driving modern consumerism and really bringing forth a lot of demands for these natural, sustainable, and often organic products. So this is sort of supported by many different databases, but specifically GCI magazine. According to them, there is a statistic that 78% of Generation Z and millennials say that they are more likely to buy natural and organic products compared to only 76% of Generation X and 69% of baby boomers. And so this sort of desire for these clean, beauty-inspired products is really pushing the industry forward. And even in cosmetics came out with a statistic as well, saying that they're anticipating by 2024 that the global sales of these clean beauty products will reach about $22 billion US, which is quite a bit for the industry. So, over time, it has been shown that brands have to sort of keep up with the ever-changing demands of the consumers. And so in this case, of course, it's up to the brand. If they want to keep making sales and keep moving forward, they have to sort of comply with these demands and do what they can to move forward. And of course, in this case, that is with utilizing more natural and sustainable ingredients to meet these demands. But not just any natural and sustainable products. Of course, consumers still want these products to have comparable activity to their maybe chemical counterparts, but without sacrificing the quality of the products as well. So to further support this, Draper's actually came out with a report that a large majority of Generation Z and millennials see sustainability as very important. And this has sort of shown that, sometimes people are willing to pay more for their products if it means that their values and their personal values are being met by the brands that they purchase from. So a lot of the times, this really pertains to, of course, it pertains to all ingredients, but we're going to, specifically talk about preservation. So with preservation, we know that cosmetic and personal care products are, of course, an ideal medium for microbial growth, bacteria, fungi, and mold. And a challenge that formulators have is developing products that are resistant to these microbial contaminations, not so much just for regulatory compliance, but also to protect the consumer. So there are a few different ways that microbes can be introduced into cosmetic formulations. One of the main reasons that we see is bioburden, and a few others being unsanitized machinery, packaging contamination. So this can also include the headspace of a formula or the headspace of a packaging, and consumer use, of course. So once the product hits the market, people are buying it. And an example of that would be a consumer dipping fingers into a product, or you know, introducing microbes that way. So a little bit about preservation for the United States specifically. So the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, states that cosmetics don't necessarily have to be sterile, but they also cannot be contaminated with any microorganisms that are pathogenic. And if they do have microorganisms that are non-pathogenic, the number of those microorganisms has to be very low. And not only does it have to be like that during production, but it has to remain that way once the product reaches the shelves and even during consumer use. So a little bit about microbial contamination. So the PCPC has really designated what is the acceptable criteria for finished cosmetic goods. And they have limited this to being 100 colony forming units for eye area products and baby products. And then for all other cosmetics, it has to be less than 1,000 colony forming units. And you know, these regulations are not only upheld in the United States, but also global markets as well. So in the European market, they utilize Annex 5 of the EU Cosmetics Directive, which has a very clearly defined list of permissible preservatives that are allowed to be used. And this is similar for the Japanese market as well, which is governed by the Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare, in which they use Appendix 3. The same thing with a list of permissible preservatives. And again, the Brazilian market, this one is governed by Anvisa, which utilizes Resolution RDC 29 that was revised in 2012. And the same for this one as well, a list of substances that are permissible to be used in toiletries, cosmetics, and perfumes. So, you know, once you have developed a product, you know, what's the next step? And of course, before a product can be moved forward into the market, it has to be challenge tested. So for those of you who may not know, challenge testing is a method that formulators use to really test the suitability and the robustness of a preservative. And the way that this happens is formulations are inoculated with various microorganisms, and then over a decided amount of time by the company will track log reduction. So this is ultimately to make sure that a formula is adequately preserved and that it will stay that way over a set period of time. And of course, you know, the FDA and PCPC have sort of suggestions on how to perform challenge testing, but it really is up to individual brands and companies to decide their methods of challenge testing, to really designate how long it needs to be challenge tested for and how many times it needs to be challenge tested. And a lot of the times, you know, preservation is also measured by minimum inhibitory concentration, so MIC values. And again, another definition for those who may not know, MIC values are really what is the minimum inhibitory concentration of a product when you're introducing your preservative system. How much does it take to keep that limit under what is governed, so that less than 100 CFU per grams for the baby and the eye cosmetics, and then 1,000 for all other cosmetics. So what you can see on this slide is I developed this table based off of some of the more popular microorganisms that are often used for computing MIC values. And I have sort of compared these with some of your more traditional preservative systems versus some alternative preservation systems. So some of the more traditional preservatives you can see are phenoxyethanol, DMDM hydantoin, various parabens, pathon, and then they are being sort of compared to some of your alternative preservation systems, such as Lactobacillus ferment, Leuconostoc radish root ferment filtrate, and Lactobacillus and Cocos nucifera coconut fruit extract. So one thing to note here is that although some of them are comparable, some of them are not, this is really outweighed by consumer pressure for not sacrificing the quality of the preservation system that you're using. Sorry, going the wrong way. So we'll talk a little bit about that, like how do they compare? So, you know, of course, everything has restrictions in a global market. We see some things, you know, are permissible in various markets, the Asian market versus the European market versus North America, South America. And so, of course, there are pros and cons to everything. We see that with alternatives, generally, they are about the same when it comes to restrictions and pros and cons. But where alternatives really differ from traditional preservatives, you'll see in this table, would be with use level and cost. So it's very easy for you know, someone who's looking to adequately preserve their formulation to say, well, phenoxyethanol only needs to be used at 1% and it's $4.85 a kilo versus an alternative like Leuconostoc radish root ferment filtrate, which would need to be used at about 2% and $5 per kilogram. But I included a cost contribution example on the right side of the screen to really break down you know, how this would work in a realistic situation. So when you're comparing it this way, in a 1 kilogram formulation utilizing 1% of phenoxyethanol, this would cost approximately 5 cents per formulation versus utilizing 2% of the Leuconostoc radish root ferment filtrate, which would cost only about 70 cents per formulation, excuse me. So both are under $1 per formula for various formulations. And again, this sort of is, you know, the idea that we have these consumers who are saying they are willing to pay more if their values are being met with the products that they are using. So a little bit more about this. So like I said, you know, many consumers are attributing their buying habits to their values over price. And this is also sort of ties in with the consumer perception of natural products versus chemical. So as chemists, we know that technically everything is chemical. Everything comes from, you know, it is chemistry. It's all chemistry. However, there is this consumer perception that natural products tend to be cleaner and you know, safer to use versus their chemical counterparts. So we can talk a little bit more about this. So some of your alternative preservation is really more so fitted towards plant-derived materials, things that are more environmentally friendly compared to the synthetic preservatives, which many synthetic preservatives have very often find themselves under scrutiny for being very sensitizing to the skin, which has really resulted in them being sort of canceled out of the personal care market because of these reasons. So some different types of alternative preservatives. I wanted to list some classes of compounds here to really give a good idea of what some of these brands are using. So of the classes, we have phytochemicals, organic acids, enzyme substrate systems, and fermented antimicrobial peptides. So really focusing on fermented antimicrobial peptides, you can see by the names listed here, this is sort of what we specialize in. So that is why I used those examples a little bit earlier in the presentation during the comparisons. But these are your different types that are very common to see that a lot of companies are sort of shifting to. Oh goodness, I'm so sorry, I keep going backwards. But when it comes to alternative preservation, there are, of course, some things to consider. So these products are not legally considered preservatives because to not be considered legally a preservative, an alternative preservation system has to have a primary function other than antimicrobial activity. And most often these are functions such as redness reduction, moisturizing, some other kind of function, which is actually pretty exciting because a lot of these products end up being sort of like a one-stop shop versus buying one product that can adequately preserve your formulation and a second product that can also offer these cosmetic benefits that we're looking for. So it really boils down to what kind of story do you want to tell? So when you think about it, when you go into a Sephora or an Ulta and you look at the shelf and there are 10 of the exact same product and you're like, which one do I buy? They all look the same. Well, typically the consumer is going to pick out the product that really tells the best story to them, which one is the most appealing. And often those are products that have a unique origin story or something that is really differentiating that product from all of the other products in the marketplace. And that is exactly what alternative preservation does. If you have an alternative preservation system that is able to have the same benefits, the same functionality, and still be comparable to their chemically derived counterparts, those tend to be very popular with consumers. So that is exactly what Active Microtechnologies does. So we really understand, the need to meet these demands of the consumer and be able to provide these types of benefits at the same time of, still providing these quality, efficacious products. So we really live by this, this thought that what if preservation was an afterthought? So a little bit more about us. We have really focused our efforts on creating an entire line of products that do have this cosmetic functionality, but also, have antimicrobial activity as a secondary function. And again, to develop an entire range of products that are aqueous, oil soluble, anhydrous, powder treatment materials, and all, trying to stay within that natural and sustainability trend. And in the bottom right corner, you can see these are some icons that we typically include on our marketing literature for many of our products. And this is really for the purpose of just giving, whoever is viewing the documentation, what we're all about, what the products are all about right up front. So this includes whether or not the product is vegan, if it is specifically compliant in certain areas. Typically, China compliancy is a big thing with our customers. What sort of efficacy is available for the product, if it's Cosmos certified, what its ISO values are, and so on. So a good example of one of our products that are really helping us to sort of lead the way in the market and differentiate us from other raw material suppliers. And again, having a product that shows benefits first and antimicrobial efficacy second. This would be one product that we just launched last year. It is called Probiosin V. And this product is really popular for, those who are interested in scalp care. So we sort of took this technology looking at how probiotics can work on the skin, how it can relieve a lot of redness and a lot of scalp issues, and sort of ran with it. And we wanted to sort of test this hypothesis and see how this product would do in scalp care. So again, this is a probiotic and prebiotic product that has this provenance, and when utilized, it really deploys this postbiotic technology. So it's meant to be, very gentle on both the skin and the scalp, and help to reduce redness as well as flakiness on the scalp. So the way that we did this was that we isolated bacteriocin peptides from Lactobacillus acidophilus, and really looked at how it works on the skin and scalp. So just an example of, those functional cosmetic benefits before the antimicrobial efficacy, we did a scalp care study for this product. So this is sort of a new study for us. We have been doing this on just a few products so far, but we are really excited about the results. So in this one particularly, we have this panelist number 4 that was treated with 4% of the Probiosin B in a base shampoo and conditioner. And without me even having to tell you the values that were calculated from this, you can see that over the course of 2 weeks, this man having his hair washed twice a week for 2 weeks, so 4 treatments of the Probiosin B, at time 0 to time 2 weeks, you can see the drastic results of how his scalp has gone from being very red and flaky to very moisturized with very little erythema. And another study that we performed would be a Vizia analysis. So again, we wanted to see the redness study. How would this do against red areas of the face? So this one, again, a panelist was treated with 4% Probiosin B and a base lotion. And over the course of 4 weeks, we saw that the red areas of this participant's face were reduced by 25.8%. And then after the treatment was halted, after a 2-week regression period, we saw that red areas increased again by 31.6%. And then now getting to the antimicrobial efficacy as a secondary function. So here we have some MIC data for this product where we tested it against the 5 microorganisms that we spoke about earlier, but also Malassezia furfur. So for those who don't know, Malassezia furfur is one of the leading causes of seborrheic dermatitis and can be very problematic. So we really wanted to see, how does this product test against it? And after we launched this product, we actually had such great feedback from it. We decided to look into how this product tests against some of the industry-leading antifungals as well. So we actually performed MIC testing against climazole, pyroxone, olamine, and zinc pyrithione to really see how these products would perform. And you can see that, of course, Probiosin B was very comparable to pyroxone olamine and actually outperformed climazole. So finally, we also had challenge testing for this product. This is where we utilized 4% Probiosin B inoculated with the same 5 microorganisms, and we as a company always do a initial 28-day incubation period in which we look at log reduction of the microorganisms, and then re-inoculate for another 28 days and monitor log reduction as well. So really the takeaway from this presentation is that, we're really seeing that synthetic preservatives are really falling out of favor with our consumers. And this has really led to a lot of brands trying to do what they can to, keep moving forward. And that really the answer here is alternative solutions to these synthetic preservatives. Having these products that still give us these active benefits that we want, the same efficacy, without compromising any quality of the products as well. So as promised earlier, I was going to talk a little bit about our sister companies as well. So of course, if you'd like to contact us, this is the contact information at the top for for Active Microtechnologies. And then below that, you can see our sister companies. So Active Concepts is sort of the umbrella company here. And we really focus on many different platforms: biofermentation, extracts, proteins, delivery systems, many different functional actives. And then we also have Formulator Sample Shop, which many of you might have heard of. This is sort of more geared towards a lot of DIYers, indie brands, smaller companies with smaller MOQs. So typically MOQs that are under 5 kilograms. And what's really great about Formulator Sample Shop is if a company starts with Formulator Sample Shop, we sort of get excited when we're able to grow with these companies, because of course, as these companies grow, whenever they get to be over 5 kilograms MOQs, they sort of move into Active Concepts, and we still get to keep these wonderful relationships with the customers. And finally, we have Arbor Organic Technologies. This is our organic line. So we've got quite a few products with that, as well as organic products are really taking off. And of course, if you guys have any questions, or if you, would like any further information about these companies, please feel free to reach out to me. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Alexandra. Can you take down your presentation, and then we'll chat for a second?
Absolutely.
Because I'm sure there's some questions. I know I have some.
Bye.
And then we have some, let me see, Janelle, you just put something up on, why can't I see my chat box?
Okay, so recommendations for how to go about switching from current preservative systems to an active micro version. So this really depends on the formulation, but it is quite easy, and we actually have an applications team here that is very willing to give advice on formulations and how to best switch over. If you are interested, most of the products in with Active Microtechnologies, the use level is typically in between 2 to 4%. And generally, we recommend starting with 4% and then working your way down if you notice, that you are able to go less. So we actually get that question a lot.
Alexandra, I have a question. You said you guys have a lot of organic NOP, Cosmos, both.
Yes.
Can you clarify there?
So, so our sister company, AOT, yes, so we have an entire line of certified organic products.
But is it to the food law or to the Cosmos standard? Do you know?
It is to the Cosmos standard.
Okay, all right, yes, good to know. Thank you. Because it affects people when they're trying to formulate.
I can imagine, yeah.
I just have a comment. First of all, awesome work.
Thank you.
I've been playing around with your materials for, well, I'd say years, but then I lose track of time like most of us. These ferments, these bacteria have been at this stuff for hundreds of millions or maybe longer.
Yes.
We've actually been able to use some of the ferments we're getting from the Amazon as emulsifiers.
Oh, awesome.
And the range of bacteriocins and antimicrobial peptides and functional molecules that we're finding in them, just doing targeted discovery. But you guys have really, led the pack.
Oh, well, I appreciate that.
What I'll say is working with them, for someone who's going to do this, who doesn't have experience working with these kinds of things, there's a learning curve.
Of course.
Not to get discouraged. And in terms of what is the correct amount to use in a specific formulation, every formulation is different.
Yes.
And then one of the nice things and challenges also is that as one gets comfortable with one of these ingredients, you guys come out with a new and improved version. And we're constantly learning.
Yeah.
Don't stop doing that, because
no, and it's nice we've got an entire range, and so sometimes, you know, people will come to us as well and say, this is the type of formulation I'm working on, this is the type of preservation that I'm looking for, whether it be antifungal versus, you know, we've got different ones for different applications. So we've got plenty of different products for different applications, and we love working with customers and trying to help, you know, find what is best for them, what works best for their formulation.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting since I find the area interesting. I've heard from people who got discouraged when they first started to do it because, you know, it's a different type of formulation.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that if I can add on to sort of a question, you guys have been very proactive about supporting this alternative industry,
yes,
which I really appreciate. And what caused that? I mean, what about you guys, as opposed to, because you've been at this much longer than many of the other chemical companies that are making these kinds of things. What do you think? Why were you more open and more proactive and more creative?
Right. So I personally, I mean, we are one of the last family-owned raw material suppliers in the company, in the industry. Right. So the owners of this company are just so incredibly interested in really working with not sacrificing quality. And I think that sort of goes a long way, because you can always go for the cheaper option, or, you know, things like that. But we try to pay quite a bit of attention of, you know, the trends and what people are saying. They're so big on us, you know, reading all the time and seeing what are people saying in the industry, reading different articles and the magazines and you know, what everybody's saying. And I think that is really what drives it, is the interest. And so we keep looking for, we've got a really amazing research and development group who is so interested and constantly trying to find that next best thing so that we can improve and improve. And I really think that's what it is. It's just the interest.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? Anybody? Questions?
And if you have any further questions, I realized I did not have my email address in the presentation, so I am dropping it right now.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah. So that is my email address. Please feel free to send me an email or contact us, you know, if you have any further questions, because we would love to help in any way we can.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. I want to remind you, NOHBA is a nonprofit dedicated to providing resources and education to this robust, growing indie beauty area. And check out the new website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, which will be uploaded, as well as many of the other webinars we've put up. We've got a bunch of them coming up. We've started to get some really great presenters. Erica's working her tail off, you know, making sure that this gets coordinated and out there to all of you. And thank you again. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us as well. And I'll be talking to you, Alexandra. I think this is so interesting. I love this. So
thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.